Jazz. The moment I opened the door, I heard my mother laughing. My husband was raising a glass. My sister was smiling. And then I heard the words that made my heart stop. To her death. I froze. Jazz. For a few seconds, I couldn't even breathe. I stood in the dark hallway, holding the door handle, staring at the people I had trusted more than anyone in the world. My husband, Daniel, lifted his glass again. To Emily, he said. May she finally rest in peace. Everyone laughed. My mother smiled, my sister clapped, and I stood there, alive, very much alive. Jazz. I had only come home early because my meeting had been cancelled. I thought I would surprise my family. Instead, I discovered that they were celebrating something that should have destroyed them. My death. Jazz. I quietly stepped backward and closed the door. No one noticed me. My hands were shaking as I walked away from the house. I sat inside my car across the street, Jazz, staring at the windows of the home I had spent 10 years building. 10 years of memories, 10 years of love, 10 years of believing these people were my family. And now I had one question. Why were they celebrating my death? I called my husband. He answered immediately. Hey, Emily, everything okay? I stared at the house. Where are you? There was a short pause. I'm at the office. Why? Jazz. I almost laughed. The man who had just raised a glass to my death was lying to me without even taking a breath. I said quietly, I just wanted to hear your voice. His tone suddenly became softer. Jazz. I love you, Emily. Those words hurt more than anything, because I had just heard him celebrating the day he thought I was gone. I love you too, I whispered. Then I ended the call. That night, Jazz, I didn't go home. I checked into a small hotel under my middle name. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my mother's smile, my sister's laughter, and Daniel's raised glass. By morning, Jazz, I had made a decision. I wasn't going to confront them, not yet. I wanted to know the truth, so I called the only person I trusted, my father's old lawyer, Mr. Harris. He was nearly 70, Jazz, but his memory was sharp. When I told him what had happened, he was silent for several seconds. Then he asked me something strange. Emily, did they think you were dead? Yes. Are you absolutely sure? I frowned. Of course I'm sure. His voice became serious. Then you need to come to my office today. I arrived an hour later. Mr. Harris locked the door behind me. Jazz. Then he placed a thick brown envelope on his desk. My name was written across it. I stared at it. What is this? He looked directly into my eyes. Your father left this for you. My heart stopped. Jazz. My father died 8 years ago. I know, then why are you giving it to me now? Mr. Harris took a deep breath. Jazz. Because your father instructed me to give it to you, only if your life was ever in danger, or if your family tried to convince the world that you were no longer alive. I couldn't speak. Jazz. My father had been dead for 8 years. Yet somehow, he had known this day might come. My hands trembled as I opened the envelope. Inside was a single letter. I unfolded it. Jazz. The first line made my entire body go cold. Emily, if you are reading this, then the people closest to you have finally made their move. I looked up at Mr. Harris. What move? He didn't answer. Jazz. I continued reading. My father's letter revealed something I had never known. 8 years ago, before his death, he had secretly transferred ownership of a valuable family property into my name. Jazz. The property had become worth millions. But there was one condition. I had to remain the legal owner. If I died, the property would not go to my husband. It would go to a charity my father had chosen. Jazz. I stared at the letter. Suddenly, everything made sense. My family wasn't celebrating my death because they hated me. Jazz. They were celebrating because they thought they had finally found a way to take everything I owned. But there was more. Mr. Harris placed another document on the table. This was filed 3 days ago. Jazz. I looked at the papers. My name was printed across the top. It was a death certificate. My death certificate. I stared at it in disbelief. But I'm alive. Yes, Mr. Harris said. Yes. Which means someone committed fraud. My heart began pounding. Who? He turned the document toward me. There was a signature at the bottom. The person who had reported my death. My husband, Daniel. Yaz. I felt the room spinning. My own husband had officially declared me dead, and he had done it 3 days before I came home early. I suddenly remembered his phone call, his fake concern, his soft voice. Yaz. I love you, Emily. I had believed those words. Now I understood. He wasn't grieving for me. He was waiting for me to disappear. What do I do? He leaned back in his chair. Yaz. That depends. On what? Do you want revenge? I was silent. For the first time since I had discovered the truth, I felt strangely calm. I thought about my mother, my sister, my husband, Yaz. The people who had celebrated my death while I was still alive. Then I smiled. No, I said. Mr. Harris raised an eyebrow. I don't want revenge. I picked up the death certificate. I want the truth, Yaz. That evening, I went home. I walked through the front door as if nothing had happened. My mother nearly dropped her coffee. My sister went completely silent. Yaz. And Daniel looked like he had seen a ghost. I smiled. Why is everyone staring at me? No one answered. I put my bag down. Then I looked at Daniel. Did you miss me? His face went pale. Emily. I stepped closer. What's wrong? He couldn't speak. My sister suddenly ran toward me. Oh my God. She hugged me tightly. You're alive. I slowly looked over her shoulder. My eyes met Daniel's gaze. He knew. I knew. But neither of us said a word. My mother started crying. She claimed she had thought I was dead because someone had called her and told her I had been in an accident. Yaz. My sister said she had been devastated. Daniel said he had been searching everywhere for me. They all lied, one after another. And I listened. I didn't argue. I didn't accuse them. I simply smiled. Yaz. Then I said something that made Daniel's expression change. It's strange. Everyone looked at me. I heard you celebrating my death. The room became completely silent. My mother stopped crying. Yaz. My sister froze. Daniel's face turned white. I continued. I came home early yesterday. No one moved. I heard everything. Daniel took one step toward me. Emily, please. I raised my hand. Don't. Yaz. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Not sadness, not guilt. Fear, and that was when I knew. They had no idea what I had discovered. I reached into my bag and pulled out the brown envelope. Yaz. My father's letter. I placed it on the table. Then I put the death certificate beside it. Daniel stared at the papers. My mother gasped. My sister stepped backward. I looked at all three of them. Yaz. You wanted me dead, I said quietly. No, Daniel whispered. I smiled. Then why did you report my death? He had no answer, and suddenly my family understood something. Yaz. I wasn't the woman they had buried. I was the woman who had come back with the truth. And this time Abby wasn't leaving. I was going to find out exactly how far their betrayal went. Yaz. And before this was over, every secret they had hidden from me would come to light. For the first time in 10 years, I saw my husband afraid of me, not angry, not confused, afraid. Yaz. Daniel stood in the middle of our living room, staring at the death certificate on the table, as if it were a loaded weapon. My mother had stopped crying. My sister, Rachel, was standing near the window, completely silent. And I was calm, almost too calm, because something had changed inside me. Yaz. The woman who had walked into that house yesterday was desperate to understand why her family had celebrated her death. The woman standing there now didn't need to understand everything. Yaz. She already knew enough. Someone had declared me dead. Someone had lied about an accident. Someone had filed official papers using my name. Yaz. And my own husband had been celebrating before I even knew what was happening. I looked at Daniel. Tell me the truth, he swallowed. What truth? I almost smiled. You know exactly what truth, Gaz. I don't know what you're talking about. Then explain this. I pushed the death certificate toward him. Daniel stared at it. My mother suddenly stepped forward. Emily, you don't understand. I turned toward her. Then help me understand. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. I looked at Rachel. Maybe you can explain it. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. Emily, please. Please what, Gaz? You're making this worse. I laughed softly. Worse? I picked up the death certificate. I was dead 3 days ago. Nobody spoke. According to this document, I was dead. According to my husband, I was dead. And according to the people sitting in this room, I was dead enough to celebrate. Daniel finally moved. Emily, listen to me. I stepped backward. No. He stopped. You've had plenty of time to talk. I looked at my mother. You too. Then I looked at Rachel, and you. My voice became quiet. Now it's my turn to listen. Daniel's face tightened. Gaz. He knew he had no way out, but then he did something I didn't expect. He started crying. Real tears. He lowered his head. I was trying to protect you. I stared at him. Gaz. The words were so absurd that for a moment I couldn't even respond. Protect me? Yes. By declaring me dead? You don't understand. Then explain it. Daniel looked at my mother. She shook her head. Gaz. That tiny movement told me everything. There was another secret, something bigger, something they were still hiding. I sat down. Start talking. Daniel remained standing. My father was in debt, he said. I frowned. Your father died 5 years ago. I know. What does that have to do with me? Daniel rubbed his face. Everything. He told me that 5 years earlier, Gaz, his father's company had nearly collapsed. Millions were owed. Creditors were demanding payment. Daniel had tried to save it, but he couldn't. Then my father died, Gaz. And that's when Daniel discovered something. My father had left me an inheritance. Not just money, investments, business shares, assets I barely knew existed. I had never cared about wealth, Gaz. My father had always handled those matters privately. After his death, I trusted Daniel to help me manage everything. That was my first mistake, Gaz. Daniel admitted that he had secretly used some of my assets to help his father's company. At first, he said, it was temporary. He would repay everything. But the company kept losing money, Gaz. One debt became another. And eventually Daniel was trapped. I stared at him. How much? He didn't answer. How much did you take from me? His eyes dropped. How much? Finally, he whispered the number. I felt my stomach turn. It was far more than I could have imagined. Years of my father's savings. Money meant to protect my future. Money I had trusted my husband to manage. Go, Gaz. I stood up. You stole from me. No, you used my money without telling me. I was trying to save us. You were trying to save yourself. Daniel shook his head. Emily, if I hadn't done it, Gaz, we would have lost everything. I looked around the room. Everything. I pointed toward the expensive furniture, the paintings, the house, the car sitting outside. Gaz, you mean everything you bought with my money? Daniel said nothing. My mother suddenly stepped forward. Emily, your husband made mistakes, but I turned toward her. Stop defending him. She froze. You knew. Her silence was enough. I felt something break inside me. My own mother knew. Emily, how long? She started crying again. I didn't care. How long did you know, Gaz? My mother looked at Daniel, then at Rachel. Finally, she whispered, almost 2 years. 2 years my entire family had known. My husband had taken my money. My mother had known. My sister had known, Gaz. And I had been the only fool sitting at the dinner table every night, smiling at people who were secretly discussing my financial ruin. I walked toward the window. Outside, the sun was setting. Gaz, I remembered something my father had once told me. Never trust someone just because you love them. I had laughed when he said it. Now I understood. Behind me, Daniel spoke again. Gaz. There was one thing we couldn't access. I turned around. What? The property your father put in your name. My heart stopped. The property. The same property Mr. Harris had mentioned. Gaz. The one worth millions. The one that would never go to Daniel if I died. I looked at him. So that's why. Daniel's expression changed. Why what? I walked closer. You didn't want me dead. Gaz. He looked confused. You wanted me gone. Silence. You needed everyone to believe I was dead so you could take control of everything. No. Then why was my death certificate filed? I didn't do it. Gaz. I stared at him. Your signature is on it. Daniel's face suddenly changed. What? I grabbed the document. Your signature. He looked at it. His expression went from confusion to shock. Gaz. That isn't my signature. I stopped. What? I didn't sign that. I looked at the document again. The signature did look like Daniel's, almost perfect. But now I remembered something. Gaz. My father had always warned me about forged documents. I looked at Daniel. Then who did? Nobody answered. Suddenly, Rachel spoke. I know. Every head turned toward her. My sister was crying. Rachel. She wiped her eyes. I know who did it. Daniel stepped toward her. Don't. Rachel looked at him. For the first time I saw anger in her eyes. You lied to me too. Daniel froze. I stared at my sister. Tell me. Rachel shook her head. Emily, I was scared. Tell me. She took a deep breath. It wasn't Daniel. I looked at my husband, then back at Rachel. Who? She whispered one name. Gaz. And my entire world stopped. Mom. I turned toward my mother. She looked at me. There was no surprise on her face, only guilt. My mother had forged the document. My mother had helped declare me dead. Gaz. My mother had been part of the plan. I couldn't move. The woman who had held my hand when I was a child. The woman I had called when I was sick. The woman I had trusted with every secret. She had helped erase me. Why? I whispered. My mother began to cry. Because I had no choice. I laughed. No choice. She shook her head. Your father left me nothing. I stared at her. What? Gaz. Everything went to you. The room became silent. My mother continued. Your father hated me. That isn't true. He blamed me for everything. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Gaz. My parents had always seemed happy. At least, that's what I thought. But my mother revealed something I had never known. Before my father's death, their marriage had fallen apart. Gaz. My father had discovered that my mother had been secretly taking money from one of his accounts. He had confronted her. Then he changed his will. He left almost everything to me. Gaz. My mother received only enough to live on. She hated him for it, and after his death she hated me. I felt tears burning my eyes. All these years my mother covered her face. I didn't want this. You celebrated my death. She looked up. I was desperate. No. My voice was shaking. You were greedy. She flinched. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel sorry for her. Gaz. Then I remembered something. I turned toward Rachel. You said Mom did it. Rachel nodded. She began crying. I found out later. When? 3 months ago. I stared at her. 3 months? Rachel nodded. Mom told me what she was planning, and you said nothing. I was afraid of Mom. Rachel shook her head. Of Daniel. I looked at my husband. Daniel was silent. Gaz. Rachel continued. Daniel knew about the plan. My heart sank. You said he didn't do it. He didn't forge the document, Rachel said. But he knew Mom was going to. I turned toward Daniel. He didn't deny it. I felt the last piece of trust disappear. You knew. Daniel looked at me. I didn't think she'd actually do it. But you knew. Yes, that one word destroyed everything. Yeah, I walked toward the door. Daniel followed. Emily, wait. I turned. Don't come near me. He stopped. You need to understand something, he said. I understand everything. No, you don't. Gaz. His voice suddenly became desperate. There is another reason we did this. I stared at him. What could possibly be worse? Daniel looked at my mother. She shook her head, but it was too late. Yeah, I saw the fear in his eyes. There was someone else, he said. My heart started beating faster. Someone else? Daniel nodded. Someone who wanted you gone. Who? He looked at me. As your father's business partner. I froze. My father's business partner died years ago. No. Daniel shook his head. He didn't. I couldn't breathe. What are you talking about? Gaz, your father's business partner is alive. I stared at him. That's impossible. Your father believed he was dead. I felt dizzy. Daniel stepped closer. Emily, your father didn't leave you that property to make you rich. Then why? Because he was hiding something. I looked at him. What? Daniel's voice dropped. Gaz. He knew someone was trying to take control of his company. Who? Daniel hesitated. Then he said, your father was afraid of your uncle. My uncle, a man I hadn't seen in 15 years. Gaz. A man my father had refused to speak about. A man I had been told had left the country. I suddenly remembered the envelope Mr. Harris had given me. There was one more document inside. I hadn't opened it. Gaz. I pulled it from my bag. My hands were shaking. I opened it. Inside was a photograph of my father standing beside another man. I recognized the man immediately. I had seen his face before. Gaz. In my mother's house, in old family pictures, the man standing beside my father wasn't his business partner. He was my uncle. And on the back of the photograph, my father had written 6 words. Emily, Gaz, never trust the man beside you. I looked up. Daniel was standing directly in front of me. My husband, the man beside me. Suddenly the room felt cold. I looked at the photograph, then at Daniel, Gaz. And for the first time, I wondered if I had been asking the wrong question all along. Maybe the mystery wasn't why my family had celebrated my death. Maybe the real mystery was this. Gaz. What had my father discovered about my husband before he died? I walked out of the house that night. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't take anything. I drove straight to Mr. Harris's office. Gaz, when he saw my face, he knew. You found out. I placed the photograph on his desk. My father knew. Mr. Harris looked at it, then he closed his eyes. It's time. Time for what, Gaz? He opened a locked drawer. From inside, he pulled out another envelope. This one was marked with a date, the date my father died. I stared at it. What's inside? Mr. Harris looked at me. Gaz. Your father's final confession. My hands froze. Confession? Yes. What did he confess? Mr. Harris pushed the envelope toward me. Your father knew your family would betray you one day. Gaz. I stared at him. Why? Because he knew exactly what Daniel had done. I opened the envelope, and as I began reading my father's final words, I realized something that changed everything. Gaz. My family hadn't started planning my death 3 days ago. They had been planning it for years, and my father had been preparing me to survive it. I looked at the final line of his letter. Gaz. When they finally try to erase you, don't fight them with anger. Let them believe they've won. Then take back everything they thought was theirs. I slowly folded the letter. Gaz. For the first time since I discovered the betrayal, I smiled because I finally understood my father's plan, and I knew exactly what I had to do next. I would disappear, not because I was afraid, Gaz, not because they had won, but because sometimes the best way to expose a liar is to let them keep talking, and this time I was going to make sure every word they said became evidence against them. Part 3. The truth they never expected. The next morning I disappeared. I didn't tell Daniel, I didn't tell my mother, I didn't tell Rachel. Only Mr. Harris knew where I was. For 3 days, Gaz. I watched everything from a distance, and just as my father had predicted, they believed they had won. Daniel went to the bank. My mother contacted a lawyer, Gaz. Rachel started telling relatives that I had probably left the country. They were preparing to divide my life among themselves. But they made one mistake. They forgot that I was still alive. Jazz. On the fourth day, Mr. Harris called me. "Emily," he said, "it's time." I arrived at his office that afternoon. On the table were copies of bank records, legal documents, and recordings. I stared at him. "Jazz, what is all this proof?" My heart raced. Mr. Harris explained that my father had secretly placed safeguards around my inheritance. Daniel had never owned anything. My mother had no legal claim. And the property they wanted, it could never belong to them. But there was something even more important. The death certificate was fake. The signature was forged. And the person who had arranged the entire scheme had left behind enough evidence to expose everyone involved. I looked at the documents. Who was behind it? Mr. Harris looked at me. "Your mother." I closed my eyes. I already knew. "But she didn't act alone," he continued. I opened my eyes. "Who helped her?" He placed one final document in front of me. Daniel's name was on it. I felt no shock this time, only sadness. My husband had known. He had allowed my mother to declare me dead because he believed that once I disappeared, he could control my assets. But my father had predicted everything. I had one final question. "What about my uncle?" Mr. Harris shook his head. "He was never involved." I stared at him. "What? Your father suspected him?" But the truth was different. Your uncle had actually warned your father about Daniel years ago. I felt my heart sink. All this time I had believed the wrong person. My uncle wasn't the threat. Daniel was. That evening, I returned home. Everyone was there. Daniel, my mother Rachel. They were sitting together, discussing what they would do with my property. Then I walked through the door. The room went silent. Daniel stood up. "Emily," I smiled. "Miss me?" My mother started crying. I didn't even look at her. I placed a folder on the table. "Everything you need to know is inside." Daniel opened it. His face slowly changed. The bank records, the forged documents, the recordings, the evidence, everything. I had it all. My mother began shaking. Rachel covered her mouth. Daniel stared at me. "You recorded us?" I shook my head. No, I smiled. "You recorded yourselves." They had talked freely because they thought I was dead. They had discussed the property, the money, the fake death certificate. Everything they had said was now proof. Daniel sat down. I looked at him one last time. "You wanted me gone because you thought my life belonged to you." He couldn't answer. "You were wrong." I turned toward my mother. "And you taught me the most painful lesson of my life." She looked up at me. "What lesson?" I smiled sadly. "Family isn't always the people who share your blood." Then I walked away. I didn't take revenge by destroying them. I simply let the truth do what lies never could. The authorities were informed. The fraud was investigated. My mother's plan was exposed. Daniel lost everything he had built with my money. And Rachel? She came to me weeks later, crying and apologizing. I forgave her. But forgiveness didn't mean giving her my trust again. Some bridges can be repaired. Others are better left behind. Months later, I stood in front of my father's old house. The same house where I had once believed everyone loved me. I thought about the night I had heard them celebrating my death. Back then, I thought it was the end of my life. Now I understood. It was the beginning of my freedom. I looked at the letter my father had left me. His final words were still clear in my mind. "Never let someone else's betrayal convince you that you are worthless." I smiled. My family had tried to erase me. Instead, they had given me the courage to finally discover who I really was. And sometimes, the greatest revenge isn't watching your enemies suffer. Sometimes, it's walking away with your dignity intact, while they finally have to live with the truth. Because they thought I was dead, but the woman they tried to bury was the woman who finally learned how to live.